And so let me do one more introduction, just one more time. I'm Jamie Hamrick, one of the counselors here, and this is Anna Roberts, our representative with the Georgia Student Finance Commission, and we're excited to have her come and present a webinar here to let us know about the FAFSA, to do a walkthrough and just give us some good information about how the FAFSA has changed, talk to us about how this whole process works with applying for financial aid. And so we're excited that we've got such a great number of families here with us tonight. So Anna, I am going to turn it over to you. Let me say one thing. We do have a Q&A. We are going to hold all questions to the end. We will let Anna get through the whole presentation tonight. And then at the end, just type your questions into the Q&A. We will do the Q&A at the end. A lot of the questions may be answered as we go through the presentation. And then at the end, we will answer those and we'll go ahead and get started. So Anna, take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Like she said, my name is Anna Roberts. I'm your representative from the Georgia Student Finance Commission. I'm here to help you in this journey of financial aid and applying for financial aid. This is my email right here on the screen. It's also going to be at the very end of the presentation as well. Please feel free, if you leave here today and you have really specific questions, or when you're filling out the FAFSA, if you have any issues, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, ask me all of your financial aid questions. I'm here to help. I'm your resource. Please use me. I might not know all the answers, but I promise I know all of the people who do, and I am just here to help in any way I can. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, you'll have to excuse me. I believe this is the incorrect presentation. Not the best way to get started, but we did have some technical difficulties here before you all arrived. So this is just more remnants of that. Here we go. Oops. Here we go. Back like I never left. So like I was saying, this is my email. I'm your representative from GSFC, and I'm here to help in any way I can. So like we said, there's a lot of new things that have come for the FAFSA this year. It typically opens in October of every year, as most of us know, and this year it didn't open up until the end of December. It is currently in its soft launch phase. Now, this just means that over the next few weeks especially, FAFSA is going to be available and unavailable periodically. We don't have exact dates and times for when it's going to be unavailable, but throughout the next couple weeks, especially as we get closer and closer to February, it'll periodically be down just to help go in and fix any glitches or bugs that have arisen during this period. So if you log on and you see that it's unavailable, just log on a little bit later. It'll probably be back up again. But other things that are brand new, parents are called contributors to the FAFSA. Both the student and contributor are going to need to have verified FSA IDs before beginning to complete the FAFSA application. Now, an FSA ID is just an account on studentaid.gov. So students who have never completed the FAFSA before are going to need that FSA ID, as well as parents. Now, if you are a parent who already has an account with studentaid.gov, whether it's because you have an older student who you've had to help complete the FAFSA before, or an account you've had to have for yourself, you do not need to create a new account. That account is still going to be ready to go. You can use it when helping your new student complete their FAFSA application. If you are creating a brand new account, your FSA ID is going to take anywhere between 3 and 10 days to be verified. So please be sure you're going ahead. If you haven't already, log on tonight and create that account. That way, in a few days, when you're verified, you can just go ahead and knock out the FAFSA application with all the knowledge you're going to receive tonight. If parents are married filing joint tax returns, only one parent is going to need an FSA ID. But if you have filed taxes separately, both parents are going to need an FSA ID. If parents are divorced or separated, the parent who provided the most financial support within the last calendar year is going to complete the FAFSA. We call that the highest contributor. We're going to get into that a little bit more later. And then your federal tax information is going to be imported directly into FAFSA from the IRS through the direct data exchange. Now, if you are a parent who does not have a social security number, you can still contribute to your student's FAFSA account. You can create your own FSA ID without a social security number. And to do that, you're just going to go to create an account like a typical person would and provide your first, middle, and last name as well as your date of birth. Then you're just going to select I don't have a social security number checkbox and then enter your account credentials, your contact information, and verify your account. Now, financial need is calculated by a need-based analysis, and that is determined by both taxed and untaxed income, as well as any assets and benefits received, such as unemployment or Social Security. Cost of attendance, or COA, is a phrase you might see throughout this presentation, and that is determined by the institutions themselves. Also, your SAI that you'll see up there, your student aid index. Your student aid index is not the amount of money your family will have to pay for college, nor is it the amount of federal student aid your student will receive. It is simply just a number used by the schools to calculate the amount of federal student aid you're eligible to receive. Now, EFC is determined from the information you provide on the FAFSA. Your EFC is also not the amount of money your family will have to pay for college, nor is it the amount of federal aid your student will receive. It is simply another number used by the schools to calculate the amount of federal aid that the students are eligible to receive. Now let's get into the FAFSA form itself. This is the homepage of studentaid.gov. This is the landing page. If you have not created a FSA ID, this is where you're going to go to create that account. Up in that top right-hand corner, it says create account. That's going to be step one for you. If you have already created that account and you're going to complete the FAFSA form, this is where you'll come and you'll click start a new form. This is the login page. Now, we want to reiterate that when you're creating that account or you're logging into your account, to please, students, do not use your school email address. Typically, pretty soon after graduation, that email address becomes inactive. So please use an email address that you are going to continue to have access to all throughout college and post-grad. We just want to really be sure that you never lose access to your federal student aid account. Also, please write your username and password down in a safe place because, again, you never want to lose access to this account. Now, when a student begins their FAFSA form, this is the page it's going to come to. They're going to log in. They're going to have created that start application button, and this is where it's going to take them. Now, if you are a student completing the form, as you should be, you're going to click that you are starting the form as a student. When the student starts the 2024-2025 FAFSA form for the very first time, they're going to be taken through what's called the FAFSA onboarding process. The first onboarding page that you see here just provides a general overview of the FAFSA form as well as an accompanying video. The second FAFSA onboarding page provides information about the different roles that may be required to participate in the student's FAFSA form and documents that may be needed to fill out the form. The third FAFSA onboarding page provides information about the types of questions the students can expect to see and how they can get additional help with filling out the FAFSA form. Now, the final FAFSA onboarding page just provides information about what to expect once the FAFSA form is fully completed and submitted. On this page is where students will select Start the FAFSA form and officially begin. This is the first page within the student section. The student can verify that their personal information is correct, and to update any of their personal information, the student must access their account settings on studentaid.gov. For fields related to the student's mailing address, the student's going to be able to edit them directly on this page. The student is going to be asked about their state of legal residence. The student's going to select the state from the drop-down box and provide the month and year of which they became a legal resident. This page just informs the student about consent and their federal tax information. By providing consent, the student's federal tax information is going to be transferred directly into the FAFSA form from the IRS to help complete the student financial section. The student must select Approve to provide consent and then will be taken to the next page. And I want to pause right here and just reiterate, it is extremely important for the students to allow consent to the IRS Direct Data Exchange, whether they filed tax returns or not. The student and the parent are both going to have to provide consent to the IRS Direct Data Exchange to be eligible for federal student aid. Once again, whether they've actually filed tax returns or not, they need to provide consent to be eligible for student aid. The next page is going to be the student personal circumstances section. It provides a complete overview of what they're about to complete in the next section. The student is then going to be asked about their marital status. For example, this student is opting to select single, never married option. The student will then be asked about their college grade level for the 2024-25 school year, and if they will have their first bachelor's degree. This student, for example, is selecting that they are a first-year student and that they will not have their first bachelor's degree. If the student is a veteran, currently serving, or has had unique home situations like being in foster care, an orphan, etc., it would be disclosed on this next page here. If the student's circumstances prevents a student from being able to contact their parent or to receive their parent's tax information, it's going to be disclosed under the Unusual Circumstances tab as well. Based on the answers provided by the student so far, they are considered a dependent student. The student is then going to be asked if they want a financial aid administrator to determine their eligibility for a direct, unsubsidized loan only. This is an option if the student's parents are unwilling to provide the information, and this student in the example selects no. What I really want to reiterate here on this slide is, again, if the student has parents who are unwilling to provide their information, but they do not qualify for an unusual circumstances as mentioned previously, they can select yes on this tab. However, it is extremely important to note that this is if they want a financial aid administrator at their institution that they are going to attend to determine their eligibility for a direct, unsubsidized loan only. As the student is considered dependent, they are asked to provide information about their parents. So if you did not opt in to the financial aid advisor determining your eligibility for a direct unsubsidized loan only, and you are willing to, or your parents are willing to put in their information, this is what will happen next. The FAFSA form considers their parent to be their legal, biological, or adoptive parent. The student is going to be asked if their parents are married. This student in our example is selecting yes and is required to invite their parents to the FAFSA form to complete the required parent sections. We get lots of questions about who is considered a parent when they fill out their FAFSA, who is considered a contributor, and a parent is typically a biological or adoptive parent only. If biological or adoptive parents are divorced, separated, never married, and do not live together, the parent's information who provided the most financial support over the last 12 months would be used. If that parent is remarried, the step-parent information would be required as well. On this new application, there is going to be something called a parent wizard that can help your student determine who is their contributor. Next, the student is asked to enter personal information about their parents in order to send them an invite to their FAFSA form. In this scenario, the student is inviting one parent. This is the first view within the student demographics section. It provides an overview of the section ahead. Next, the student is going to be asked about their gender identity and if they are transgender. The student selects their response from the options for both questions. It will also ask the students about their race and ethnicity, as well as their citizenship status. It will also ask about their parents' highest level of education. It will also ask questions to students to obtain information to determine if they qualify for specific grants, like this one, for example, that asks about if a student has had a parent who has passed in the line of duty. It will also ask about the student's high school completion status and for their high school information. It will then move on to the student's financial information, and this is an overview of the section ahead. It will ask for the student's tax return information as well as their assets if that's applicable. This usually applies to those renewing their FAFSA and not first-time applicants, but if it does apply to you, this is where you will input that information. In the following section, it will ask for your student to select the colleges they are considering so that they can receive an electronic copy of their FAFSA form. This is what will allow schools to send your student an award offer letter and tell them how much aid they would receive at their institution. You will search your schools and add them to your list, and you will be able to select up to 20 different institutions. Remember, at most, you will need to have been accepted, or you will needed to have applied, and at some even be accepted before they will send you an award offer letter. When the student selects Continue, they will have completed entering the required student information for their section and can proceed to review and sign their form. The review page displays the responses that the student has provided in the FAFSA form. The student can view all their responses by selecting Expand All or expand each section individually. To edit a response, the student can select the question's hyperlink and will be taken to the corresponding page. Additionally, since the student invited their parent into the form, they see the parent contributor section and the status of their parent's invite. This shows the students the status of the contributors. Here they can request, manage, or remove signatures and contributors from this page or in their FAFSA form. On this page, the student acknowledges the terms and conditions of the FAFSA form and signs their section. After agreeing and signing, the student is able to submit their section of the FAFSA form. Since the parent information has not been yet provided, the FAFSA form is not considered complete and cannot be processed. Upon signing the student section, the student is presented the Student Section Complete page. The page displays information for the student about next steps, including tracking their FAFSA form. The student is reminded that their FAFSA form is not yet completed and cannot be submitted until the parent completes the contributor section of the form and signs it. This is what the email will look like to the contributors. This is not a view within studentaid.gov, nor is it the FAFSA form. This view demonstrates a parent opening up their FAFSA invitation from their email. From here, the parent is going to select Log In and will be taken straight to studentaid.gov. They will click the link in their email and log into their FAFSA account, not their students. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, a student and their contributor are each going to need a verified FSA ID account. They're each going to need their own studentaid.gov account, and this is why. The students will have invited the parents to join the account, and then they will need to come here and log into their personal account to complete their section of the FAFSA. After successfully logging in, the parent is going to be taken to their My Activity page. The parent should see an invitation to be a contributor on the student's FAFSA form. It will then show the parent each onboarding form explaining the FAFSA just as the student saw. So each contributor will also see that intro video explaining everything, as well as the other 3 onboarding pages. Next, the parent was going to review their personal information to be sure everything is correct. This page informs the parent about consent and their federal tax information, same as what the student saw in their section. By providing consent, the parent's federal tax information is transferred directly into the FAFSA form through the IRS to help complete the parent financial section. The parent must select Approve to provide consent and will be taken to the next page. Like I mentioned previously, it is the same as it is with the student section. The parent must provide consent to the IRS Direct Data Exchange for the student to be eligible for financial aid. If you do not provide consent, the student will be ineligible, so please be sure that you provide consent when it comes to this portion of the application. The parent is then going to answer all of the same demographic questions that the student answered regarding marital status, state of legal residence, race, ethnicity, etc. It will then take them to their financial section of the application. It will ask about federal benefits received, tax filing status, family size, and number of dependents in college. It will ask them about their 2022 tax return information, as well as annual child support received and parental assets such as checking and savings accounts, investments in real estate, and current net worth of businesses or farms if that's applicable. The review page displays responses that the parent has provided into the FAFSA form. In this scenario, the parent can only view responses within the parent section of the student's FAFSA form. The parent can view all of their responses by selecting Expand All or expand each section individually. To edit a response, the parent can select the question's hyperlink to be taken to the corresponding page. This is the final step in the parental section of the application. It is extremely important for you to be sure to sign and submit the application. Upon submitting the student's FAFSA form, the parent is presented an abbreviated confirmation page. This page displays information about tracking the student's FAFSA form and the next steps. The student will receive an email with the full detailed confirmation. With the student and parent sections completed and signed, the FAFSA form is now considered complete and submitted for processing. Next, we're going to take a look at the FAFSA submission summary. Now, the student receives a FAFSA submission summary for their processed FAFSA form and any subsequent corrections that they submit. The FAFSA submission summary is broken into 4 different tabs: Eligibility Overview, FAFSA form answers, School information, and Next steps. At the top, the student will see information about when their form was received and processed. They will also have the option to print their FAFSA submission summary to keep for their personal records. On the Eligibility Overview tab, the student will see information about what federal student aid they may be eligible for, such as the federal Pell Grant and federal direct loans. They are also able to view the Student Aid Index. Any amount of financial aid that display on this tab are simply estimates and are not guaranteed. Final determination of the student's financial aid eligibility is provided by their institution's financial aid office. The Student Aid Index, as previously mentioned, is an eligibility index number that a college's or career school's financial aid office uses to determine how much federal student aid the student would receive if they attended that institution. On the Next Steps tab, the student sees comments that pertain to their FAFSA form. Some comments may require the student to start a correction or send additional documentation to their school. Other comments may be considered informational and do not require any further action from the student. Lastly, along the right side of their FAFSA submission summary, the student can choose from additional resources including Visiting Aid Summary or College Scorecard. Now, once again, if a dependent student and direct unsubsidized loan, I mentioned this previously earlier, but again, if the parents of a dependent student are unwilling to provide their information, but the student does not have unusual circumstances, the student can choose to have their school determine their eligibility for a direct unsubsidized loan only. If it is a provisionally independent student, the student is going to be asked if they were homeless or at risk of being homeless early in the application, and the student here in this situation would select yes. Next, the student would be asked who determined that they are homeless or at risk of being homeless. This student selects none of these apply. If the student has unusual circumstances that prevent the student from contacting their parents, or if contacting their parents would pose a risk to the student, they would make that known here. Based on the answers provided by this student, they are considered provisionally independent and are not required to provide parent information. The student is then going to be able to sign and submit their FAFSA form, but they will need to contact their school to see what supporting documentation they need to submit. A financial aid administrator at their institution will review and make a determination regarding a student's dependency override. Until the student's circumstances are verified, federal student aid will only provide the student an estimate of their federal student aid eligibility. Now, if the financial situation has changed drastically of the contributor, if there has been a change in employment status, medical expenses not covered by insurance, change in parent marital status, again, any special circumstances from when they submitted their federal tax returns in 2022, a student can discuss these circumstances with the financial aid office at their institutions that they have listed on the FAFSA form. Each financial aid office has their own process and may not require all of the same required documentation, but these institutions can adjust award packages accordingly. There's not going to be a special box on the FAFSA form that's under the parent section, contributor section, that says, has anything crazy in your life happened within the last 2 years that has drastically affected your financial status? So if you have experienced any of these special circumstances or anything really that has just drastically affected your financial status that is not going to be shown on the FAFSA form, again, contact your student's financial aid office directly, and they can adjust things accordingly and tell you what processes need to be completed in order to do so. Now, some additional resources that we have available Georgia Futures has sections dedicated to both state and federal financial aid. It is run by us, the GSFC, and it is just a really great one-stop shop for any and all financial aid questions. StudentAid.gov and all of its affiliated sites have a wealth of information about federal financial aid. Both of these websites, StudentAid.gov and GeorgiaFutures.org, have a search tool that is extremely, extremely beneficial. I use it very frequently when I'm trying to find quick links to send to families. And a lot of time you can find a lot of information on there. I highly recommend checking those out, especially if you have just general questions about state aid or federal aid and all of those things. Here are also two more, the Federal Student Aid Knowledge Center and Federal Student Aid Financial Aid Toolkit. Both of these are really great, especially when you have questions about federal aid, like direct and indirect subsidized loans, and all of those things. Finally, this is my email once again, and this is the 800 number for client services with the Georgia Student Finance Commission. If you have any questions at all regarding anything I've talked about today, or things I haven't talked about today, or even if you're completing your FAFSA form in a few days and you come up upon something that I didn't talk about in this presentation, or you experience a glitch or something weird happens, or you just have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. Like I said at the very beginning, I'm your representative for your school. I'm here for you to help answer any questions. The whole financial aid process can be very overwhelming. It can be very tedious, and I'm here to help make it as easy as possible. But that is the end of my spiel. So I'm ready to take on questions if.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Anna. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to come and present this great information. Hopefully everybody was able to get a good understanding of just what they're up against with the FAFSA. It does look like it is definitely simplified, and it looks pretty self-explanatory. But let me go to the Q&A. It looks like there was a question. Does a parent or contributor require an invitation from their student if he or she already has a FAFSA account?
Yes. So the invitation is just going to be to join them on their application. That's just how their application is going to show up in your FAFSA account. That's just how the student and the contributor are going to be linked so that they can both work on their sides of the same application.
So once a parent puts in their information, and if they have multiple students in college, does that information then, do they have to put the information in multiple times? Or when they have the students invite their parents, does that information just magically appear in their students' accounts, or do they have to enter it in multiple times?
I do believe they're going to have to enter it in multiple times, just because they are separate applications. But maybe in the future they'll get that part figured out where parents won't have to put it in over and over again. But they are separate applications. So as of right now, especially when they get in those further questions, they're going to have to give consent again for every application, like for the IRS direct data exchange and all of those things. But at least it's fewer questions now.
That's good. Does anybody have any other questions? If you do, you can pop them in the Q&A. We'll give everybody just a minute or two. But we appreciate it. And thank you for letting us record. I know that there were people that weren't able to come tonight. So we will make sure that we put a link on our website and make that available to those who weren't able to come. So parents and students, if you're here too, make sure you let your friends and family know that we are going to have that available, that everybody can watch that. And it doesn't look like we have any other questions coming in, but you all have Anna's email address and that phone number there. So if you do have any questions, I know that You may encounter those as you begin filling out the FAFSA, so feel free to reach out to Anna. I know GSFC and all the folks there have always been wonderful about being willing to help us out. We greatly appreciate that. So definitely reach out and let us know. I see someone with a hand raised. I don't know if you want to ask a question or not, but the way to ask the question is to click that Q&A and just type it into the Q&A box. Or maybe you're waving and saying hello or goodbye. I'm not sure. But thank you guys for coming, and if nobody has any other questions, then we will conclude tonight's presentation. So you guys have a great night. Thanks so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And I'm going to stop the recording.